action-packed first-person shooter developed for the Xbox and PlayStation 2 back in 2006. Containing a plethora of enemies to kill, a vast arsenal of weaponry, plenty of explosions, and not to mention some of the best visuals of the last generation of gaming. It's no surprise that Black still sits proudly amongst my gaming collection. However, the question that I'd like to address today is, does Black still hold its own against the plethora of shooters available in today's first-person shooter genre? Or has it simply become yet another first-person shooter by today's standards? In order to answer that question, I've enlisted the help of a longtime friend of mine. A friend who I've been in contact with since my humble beginnings on YouTube. Under his YouTube username BlindZio Powerkick, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Deckard Klein. How are you today, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Ozzy? How's it going, man? How you been?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Can't complain. Anyway, so we've come together to talk about Black.
Nice. Black. Damn, man, that game brings back some memories.
It certainly does. So what are your memories with Black?
My memories with Black? Explosions, lots of bad guys, lots of guns, bullets flying everywhere. Pretty much, Call of Duty Modern Warfare before it was called that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, back when the first-person shooter market wasn't quite so oversaturated with so many titles like it is today.
You know, even today, comparing it to, like, modern shooters, it's still a pretty darn well-rounded game. Much better than its fucking shit spiritual successor Body Count. Well, now, then again, I shouldn't say that, because, I mean, Body Count wasn't that bad. I mean, it was essentially Black, just not as good, just kind of like watered down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there wasn't as much that was as destructible. I mean, the story was even less interesting than Black's, and trust me, that's definitely saying something. I mean, it's like, it just wasn't as good overall, but anyways, enough about that. We're here to talk about Black, so let's talk about Black.
Let's do it! Starting, as always, with the story, Deckard, how about you take this one?
Alright, more than happy to. Now, what I found when playing the game is that the story in Black isn't anything special. I mean, it's just about some Black Ops dude named Sergeant Keller who's about to go on trial for war crimes, I guess, but then he strikes a deal with the Dick Cheney lookalike, and in exchange for telling Dick everything he knows about a terrorist group called Seventh Wave, a group which we will never learn anything about and who we are only supposed to kill, Keller gets to walk free, sort of. And the game itself is simply a recap of the previous 4 days of Keller's life. Story is nothing interesting, it's just a vehicle, and a poorly built one at that, to move the game along. And all anyone who is even remotely interested in playing this game needs to know is that you play as a guy who wants to kill a bunch of bad guys, you get to play as him, and you get to kill said bad guys. Nothing else worth noting here. So, let's move on. Nick, alright, you got the visual presentation. What's your take on it?
Make no mistake, Black, although dated by today's standards, looked amazing for its time, featuring great weapon and environmental detail and some truly superb lighting. Not to mention that the explosion stood out as the best graphical feature of the game, looking almost lifelike.
Hey, Nick?
Yeah, mate?
You're kind of forgetting a few things there.
Yeah? Like what?
Well, don't forget the particle effects, obviously. I mean, come on, man, that's smoke.
Oh, yeah!
Not to mention the animations, especially when you reload your gun. You see, what I've always found determining a really good first-person shooter from a really bad first-person shooter, at least most of the time, take a look at the reload animations on your own guns. You can usually get a feel of how good the quality of the shooter is after that. And one last thing I feel I should mention, probably the most important aspect here, is despite all the chaos and explosions and gunfire and shit that goes on the screen at any given point, the frame rate is consistent. Never dropping, never fluctuating like crazy. A damn good achievement considering how good the game looks, as you stated.
Exactly, but as far as downsides go, the only one that really comes to mind is that for a game that features so much death and destruction, the lack of blood throughout was very disappointing. And when I say lack of blood, I mean there is literally none.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. I mean, you're telling me that with all those bullets and grenades and rockets and everything flying around, not one single guy throughout the entire game sheds a drop of blood? Come on, give me a break.
Yeah. Especially when you consider the fact that through each and every cutscene there is a shit ton of swearing anyway, so it's not really a children's game. So the lack of blood to this day is still baffling.
You know what though, Nick, despite this minor little blemish, it's hard to deny that Black is one of the best looking shooters of the 6th generation of consoles, and that's not to say the sound department is lacking either.
No, you see, like the visuals in Black, the soundtrack is also fantastic, with orchestral tunes that perfectly accompany each moment of the game, further immersing the player into the action. Additionally, the sound effects are beyond exceptional. The weapons sound both powerful and very satisfying, and other small sound inclusions such as bullets whizzing past you and hitting concrete as well as other environmental objects was a nice touch. Where the sound presentation falls flat, however, is the voice acting. It's bad, to the point where you're almost completely uninterested in anything that any of the characters have to say. The voice acting is predominantly conveyed through in-game radio chatter, in which it sounds as though Keller is talking into a megaphone rather than a two-way radio. It's that fucking loud. Even in one of the game's so-called stealth segments, Keller's voice booms through the otherwise quiet environment, making you wonder why none of the dangerously close enemies can hear anything.
2-1, 2-1, do you copy, over? 2-1, do you read me, over?
That is, of course, until you remember that the AI in this game is as oblivious as fuck. But more on that later.
You see, Nick, that's why whenever I played Black, the reason why I was able to enjoy it so much is because I didn't pay any attention to the story or dialogue. I just made up something else entirely, you know? Used my imagination. And that is also what made the gameplay in Black kick as much ass as it did.
As far as gameplay goes, Black is a great action-packed first-person shooter experience that offers one hell of a first impression, with lots of weapons, lots of bad guys to kill, and some truly awesome-looking explosions. Black is a very challenging game. It existed at a time before regenerative health became the industry standard, and as such, players had to find health packs and use them wisely in order to survive. That, of course, was easier said than done, as in several areas of the game you are completely overwhelmed with enemies, and racing around desperately killing foes and looking for health packs to keep yourself alive is one of those crazy, exciting, adrenaline-inducing moments that made the game fun. And when it comes down to weapon variety, I'll let Deckard explain that.
Alright, thanks, Nick. But before I get into that, there's always 4 things that I believed a first-person shooter needs to score in order to nail the formula down pat. Those are sound effects, weapon variety, environmental destructibility, and enemy AI. Sound effects, we already know Black scores, green across the charts. As for weapon variety, Black does have a healthy variety of your standard genre of weapons such as pistols, shotguns, SMGs, assault rifles, it's got a rocket launcher, a sniper rifle. It's really just multiple variants of the same kind of weapon. There's nothing really super creative here, but it nails the weapon variety decently, I guess. As for environmental destructibility, well, we'll just let the footage explain that. And now, we get to the enemy AI. Oh, God.
Oh, come on, buddy, don't tell me that you're gonna needlessly hate on this game all because of the sometimes oblivious AI.
Nick, don't worry about it. I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it. I just can't get that sometimes laughably retarded second mission out of my mind. You take out the first guy with your gun, and despite the fact that it has a silencer on it, all of a sudden everybody knows where you are at that point in time. Yet, you take out another guy, his friend will walk by and be like, "Oh, my friend's dead." Nothing wrong here, folks. Everything's all quiet, peachy, and just fine in this here back-of-the-woods bumfuck part of Russia.
Yeah, fair enough, man. You do make a good point.
Don't get me wrong, the AI is definitely more than competent, and they can put up a pretty darn good fight in this game. It's just, sometimes it can be a little stupidish, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man, definitely. I mean, sometimes they can be the absolute epitome of fucking oblivious. And the stealth mission we're referring to is a prime example.
Then again, Black isn't really a stealth game, it's like an action game, so for them to like try and put a stealth mission in there, just doesn't kind of mix. Now, aside of that, the only other complaint I would have about Black is, yeah, the first few levels are fun, but around the 4th or 5th level, the action movie formula starts to wear thin, because it's just kind of like you're just doing the same damn thing over and over again, just going from point A to point B, blowing everything up and shooting anything that breathes. It just really just starts to get old after a while, and the game's over not long after. I mean, there's only like 8 levels in here, of course. The last level is much longer and harder than any of the other levels before that, but the game will last you 7 hours, if that. I don't know, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it lacks diversity. I mean, it's definitely fun to begin with, and generally throughout, but with no multiplayer or any other modes to speak of, there isn't really a lot of replay value there.
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean, unless, of course, you just want to go back to the point where they give you a rocket launcher right away, because you do unlock the silver weapons, which have unlimited ammo after you beat the game on normal difficulty. So, I mean, I guess that would be fun for about 5 minutes, but aside of that, there's not really much reason to go back to it.
Especially when you consider the fact that although you do get those silver weapons with unlimited ammunition, you can only use them in the game mode that you actually beat to get them. So if you beat the game on normal, you have to replay the game on normal to use those silver weapons. So it isn't really a whole lot different.
Yes, that is correct. I totally forgot about that, thank you. But you know what, I'd say overall, Black is actually a really damn good game, and putting it bluntly, it's actually better than most of the shooters on today's market.
Would you say that?
Yes, I definitely would. Because I can go back and play Black and still have tons of fun with it. Meanwhile, I can go back and play half the shooters in my collection and be like, yeah, this is really boring. I don't know, it's just gotta be the environmental destructibility. There's just so much shit to blow up in there, it's not even funny. And it doesn't give it to you in, like, a limited controlled quantity like most other games do. Like, you could practically rip half the frickin' level apart. So yeah, I would definitely say that Black is better than most of the shooters on today's market.
And to be completely honest, buddy, I completely 100% agree with you.
Alright, let's see. Black. What do we got here? Boring-ass story, great visuals, great sound design, great gunplay, decent weapon variety, lots of environmental destructibility, sometimes retarded but overall competent enemy AI, and sadly, the only real complaint that we have about this game, a gameplay that starts to wear thin about halfway into the game. And that's pretty much it. Anything you'd like to add, Nick?
Well, yeah, mate, I completely agree with you there. The game was a lot of fun. It did lack a bit of diversity, and it did start to wear over time, but you know what my favourite part of the game was?
What?
Being able to use just about any weapon at your disposal to blow those motherfuckers sky fucking high! Yeah!
Nick, come on, man.
What?
Sending all those motherfuckers sky fucking high is good and all, but serious. You gotta learn to be a bit more on the subtle side of things from time to time.
Subtle?
Yeah, you know, just fuck!
So much for subtlety.
Yeah, shut up.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes today's review on Black. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, a big thank you to Decade for coming on and helping out today.
Hey, no problem, Nick, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. A huge thank you once again, guys and girls, and I'll see you next time.